Good evening. Hope you're okay out there. Hope you can see and hear me. Welcome to Nature Table Live, I think the 13th Nature Table Live. I think our 45th or 44th webinar we've done here at Sussex Wildlife Trust, broadcasting to you live, as always, from behind the sofa in my front room. And even though this is our 44th or 45th webinar, I'm still confused as to where all the buttons are. But hopefully, you'd think I'd be an expert by now, wouldn't you? But I'm far from it. So hopefully this is all going to work again. It's been a while since I did this. Is it working? There we are. It's working. So good evening to you. Now, I'm not alone tonight. I do have some compadres, some colleagues. Hopefully, have my colleagues out there. So is there a doctor in the house? Dr. Barry Yates, are you out there tonight?
Good evening, Michael. Yes, I'm here on the flowery beach at Rye Harbour.
Looks lovely. Looks lovely. But how are you? All right? You okay?
Yeah, pretty good. Trying to avoid too much sun.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. A lot of sun going on, which is good. Which is a good thing. And James, are you out there?
I sure am, Michael. Sure am. I'm still here at Woods Mill purely because I haven't bothered to change the background on the Zoom. So
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. There's only there's a bit of a skeleton. We haven't got Charlotte tonight. Charlotte's not available this evening, and it's only the three of us tonight. Just the three of us. Last month we had Alice and Ella and Nikki joining us. It was quite a crowd last month, but yeah. So it's just us three. So it's gonna be a cozy evening, folks. So anyway, so here we are, episode 13. Now, what comes next? What happens next? Oh yeah. So you know how we are. We're all right. This is the bit where I just ask, how are you feeling out there tonight? And this is where I play around the buttons here, because there should be a poll where you have the chance to. That's not right. Here we are. Yeah. So if I launch that, so you can press the buttons on the screen, and you can tell us how you're doing. Now, how are you feeling? Are you looking forward to freedom on June the 21st? Or are you looking forward to the announcement that June the 21st has been put back to July the 21st? Are you looking forward to hearing me talk about my yellowhammers? I didn't mention them at all last month, Barry. You may recall. I was very good. I didn't mention my yellowhammers at all last month. Or are you feeling bearded vulture out there? It's not even a proper answer. But some people are feeling like a bearded vulture. So. All right, so the votes are coming in. I'll give you a few more seconds till we see how people are. I think people are generally all right. I think we got through the dark times. I'm
disappointed we can't vote.
Yeah, and there is an option you can do that, but I've never worked out how to do it. But maybe next time. Okay, so there we are. Almost everyone's voted. I'm going to end the polling and share results. Is that right? Here we are. So most people are looking forward. Actually, the majority of people are looking forward to hear me mention my yellowhammers, because I didn't mention them last month, and but I'll try and make up for it this month. And 13% of people out there are feeling bearded vulture, which I don't even understand what that means. So so thank you for that. Stop sharing results. Right, and I close that, and then I press this. Oh, there we are. And of course, somewhere on your screen, there's a little Q&A function, and you're free to ask questions, and we're free to ignore them, because it's quite hard to answer your questions while we're trying to run a webinar. But I know Barry does check every now and again. So any questions and comments, if you can put them in the Q&A bit, if we don't answer them now, we'll probably answer them at some point in the future anyway. So there's that. So I'm glad you're all feeling okay. Now, I was going to start, Barry, because obviously since it's still brand new, almost. It's the Rye Harbour Discovery Centre. You may recall it in the last webinar. I wasn't too happy that I didn't get an invite to the VIP opening. Michael, James and Barry were there, of course.
Can I stop you there, because Rosemary's asked the first question? Have you been invited to the visitor centre yet, Michael?
Exactly. Well, I can tell you now, Rosemary. No, I'm still waiting for my VIP invite to the. I haven't been to the Discovery Centre yet. I will go. I'm sure the invite's in the post, Barry. I look forward to receiving it. How's it all going anyway, Barry? All right?
Yeah, very good. Restricted numbers of people allowed in through COVID, but the cafe's working well at half capacity, and half the interpretations open, and people are enjoying that. So yeah, it's been a hectic 3 weeks, and yeah, it's been fantastic to hear everybody's positive comments and experience. Looking from the inside out is the real wow experience. Oh, and the nice coffee and cake.
Yeah, no, I've had plenty of feedback from people telling me, how great it is over there, how great the coffee and cake is, and a lot of people telling me how great the VIP ceremony was, which I wasn't invited to. So yeah, but I'll be over. Don't worry, Barry. I'll be over soon. I'll get over there soon. I'll be over there to see you. So have my cake ready. I just saw we've gone through a very cold start to the year, of course, and suddenly it's summer. It seems like 1 minute it was winter, and then we missed spring, and suddenly the heat came through. It's summer. A lot of people have been putting photographs on the Nature Table page, on the Facebook page, of their lovely gardens. It's been no mow May, of course. People have been letting their grass and flowers grow, and I love seeing wildflowers, of course, across Sussex. What's happened here? Look, whoops. There's down there. Angela said this that Common Blues have been loving her No Mow May, which is now going to be No Mow June and No Mow July as well. So fantastic. What else we got? Oh, here's I keep moving this thing around the screen. Look, here we are. That's better. John Cooper says the stunning effect of ripping up his lawn and inexpertly sowing a wildflower and grass mix. A bit disappointed because the bees and butterflies haven't turned up yet, but I think it's been a cold start to the year, so it's taking a bit more time. Everything's running a bit late this year, but looking fantastic, John. Well done. Looking lovely. Who's next? Look, and here's Tony. Now, remember Tony, guys? He came on. He's on the Nature Table a few months back, talking about the woodcock that hit his window, which is now in my freezer. But Tony says 6 months ago he removed his boring front lawn and seeded it with a meadow mix. And it's now starting to show its potential with ragged robin flowering, oxeye daisy on the way, and the holy grail, of course, yellow rattle beginning to show. It's in part inspired by me and Dave Goulson, look, even though no stripper was involved. And he said, if you haven't tried this, I'd recommend giving it a go, Tony says. Looking great there. Tony looks lovely. Looks really good. Well, look, he says here's Tony's wild front lawn versus his boring next door neighbour's front lawn. I don't know whether he's got a boring next door neighbour, but he's certainly got his next door neighbour's got a boring lawn. You know what I mean? Hope he's not watching. Hope Tony's neighbour's not watching. He's going to get sued for this. Now Matt Musgrove's done his lawn as well. He's got his yellow rattle coming out. It seems to have been a good year for yellow rattle. A nice cold winter has helped them to germinate. I've got lots in my wildflower lawn here, and another picture here from Paul Whitmarsh of loads of yellow rattle coming on nicely, as he says. So looking good. So yellow rattle is an important feature in wildflower lawns because it's kind of like a parasite, a sort of semi-parasite. It's like a vampire. It sucks the energy from the grasses and gives more space for the flowers. So good to see a lot of yellow rattle in bloom. You may recall if you saw my talk about my lawn. Here's my neighbour. Is the vicar across the road. There's Graham there. And when he saw me digging up my front lawn many years ago, he referred to me as enviromaniacs. But Graham then, after seeing how lovely my lawn was, he's turned a bit of his lawn into a wildflower meadow. Look, it's only a little patch, but I took a photograph this afternoon. Looking lovely. There's bursfoot trefoil, oxeye daisy, yellow rattle, sorrel, all sorts of things for that. It was buzzing with bees. So well done, Graham, across the road. And remember Isla, James? She came onto the webinar many months ago, and her mum posts on the Nature Table, but because she's a bit too young, I had to put a picture of Isla instead because I don't want her mum's getting all the glory. Look, but Isla's got the wildlife garden, and I was really impressed with Isla's wildlife garden. She's got a huge list there on the front of all the plants and wildlife she can see in her wildflower patch. So well done to Isla. Then look at this. This appeared. This appeared this week on Facebook. Werner and Philip down in Rustington were inspired by the blog I wrote last year, and I was quite touched by this. A tear in my eye when look at that for a front garden in bloom, and that's going to be fantastic for bees, butterflies, and all sorts of pollinators and other insects. So I wouldn't mind driving down and seeing that. It looks amazing, absolutely amazing. So well done to all the folks who've turned their boring front lawns into amazing little wildlife reserves. And Tony's gone a step further. I love this. Tony's got a little log pile here. He's put in his garden. He's made his little log pile, which is great for invertebrates. He's got his own wood carved wolf in there, peering over the top. And he posted this on the Facebook, and he got a nice comment from the People's Trust for Endangered Species. They said, "Look at this wildlife haven sent in by Tony Cook. A very impressive log pyramid which stag beetles will adore." Which I think Tony was quite touched to get a shout out from the People's Trust for Endangered Species. And Tony said, it's not as good as an invite to the opening of the Rye Harbour Visitor Centre, but I'll take it. So that's fair. I understand how you feel, Tony. So now this month, June, it's a big month for us at the Wildlife Trusts across the country because it's 30 Days Wild. Every June, we ask people to go out and do something wild every day for a month. Now, it could be anything. I've got a little video which I showed last minute. It's about a minute long. Let's show the video. Let's see if it plays. Here we are. Is this going to work? So it's 30 Days Wild. That's our sort of nature challenge, to get out and do something, do anything wild, do one wild activity per day throughout June. Every time I see that video, there's a bit where there's two kids playing on a tree branch. It looks really dangerous. So every time I see it, I always think, so to do something safe, but do something wild, but safe, don't hurt yourself. But yeah, so what we thought we'd do this month is, it's only been 10 days into June, but a lot of people have been taking part in 30 Days Wild. So we thought we'd focus on people's activities, what people have been seeing, what people have been doing in the first 10 days of 30 Days Wild. So now, of course, I'm sure you all know we have our Facebook Nature Table page, and people put their photographs of what they've been doing, what they've been seeing on that page. We have about 3,000 odd members now. And every month even without asking their permission, I just go and steal their photographs and put them together in my presentation here. So thank you for people who've let me nick their photographs. We're going to go through the first 10 days of June to see what's been happening across Sussex. Now, of course, June is an amazing month for wildlife. Lots of stuff going on. It's getting crazy out there. So let's see what people have been seeing. So we're going to start on June the 1st. And over at Rye Harbour, Barry posted it's the 1st of June. It was the first flower of yellow-horned poppy, the first flower of Viper's bugloss, and the first day, of course, of 30 Days Wild. So yellow-horned poppies, Barry, they're down on the shingle, yeah? That's where they...
Yes, yeah, and they're doing very well this year. They've liked the weather. Perhaps yellow flowers have done well with the cold winter. But yeah, they were later than usual, probably 10 days later coming out. And they're just incredible for bumblebees. You can see all the pollen in the centre there. They just go mad for it.
Is that yellow-horned poppy behind you on your background?
No.
That's not going to work, is it?
No. No, that's biting stonecrop. That's about to flower in 3 or 4 days' time.
All right, okay.
I got lost in a virtual world there.
I know, so I was a bit confused. He can't see that, can he? And that's Viper's bugloss in the other picture. That's also great for pollinators too, isn't it?
Yeah, and here we've got 4 very rare insects that live on it: a weevil and 3 micro moths. So looking after Viper's bugloss looks after 4 very rare insects.
I remember last year, Graham across the road, the vicar across the road, had he had Viper's bugloss in his little wildflower patch. I've never had any over here. I had a bugloss envy for Graham over there. It was full of bees buzzing around. Fantastic. So there we are. Let's change that. And now Maya Bambrick. Now again, Maya is a guest on the webinar a few months back. I think back in the winter. And Maya, of course, a young naturalist who does loads of stuff online. Fantastic, really inspiring. She's been taking part in 30 Days Wild as well. And also, she was in that photo down there. She was at Woods Mill. Actually, Woods Mill, James, on June the 1st. I missed her. I didn't see her. I certainly popped down and said hello if I knew she was there. But she was her first activity was watching the scabious on the right there in her garden, watching seeing how many bees were visiting the plant. Fascinating to watch. Now, my 30 Days Wild activity was searching for a very rare fly on June the 1st. I went out with my young friend Ryan. That's Ryan there with his head in his insect net. We were searching for a very, very rare fly, even possibly an extinct fly. Now, it's this thing here. Now, this actually isn't this thing. This thing here isn't it. This is a crane fly, which looks a bit like it, but there's no photograph of it. But it's Nephrotomo Salintanensis. Now, it's only found at Sullington Warren over near, sort of near Storrington over there. It's never been found there. The only place in the entire world it's been found. Hasn't been seen for about a decade. And you know, I love extinct things. I was hoping I would go there and it still remains extinct, because maybe I can write a book about it. But we didn't see it. It could be there, but certainly a very, very rare insect, only found at that one place in Sussex and nowhere else in the entire world. So it's named after Sullington Warren. It was a really hot day. I didn't see any rare crane flies, but I did see my first green hair streak of the year, which was beautiful. I heard my first adder. You know, when you're walking past gorse and hear that sort of noise that sort of slithers away. We heard my first adder. I also saw one of these amazing things, the Persuasoria, the saber wasp, that huge female, that huge ovipositor, which she uses to lay her eggs down in the wood. And also, I had my first sunburn of the year. It was good. Didn't put any suntan lotion on, so I learned that lesson. This isn't my arm, by the way, even though it does look like my arm. I thought, yeah, but it's not my arm. That's a Google image there, but I guess my arm looks like, well, anyone's arm really, doesn't it? So, but yeah, so it's very hot. So, but make sure you get the old suntan lotion on, folks. Now here's Isla again, and she was out for the first day of her 30 days wild, and she was on the Wildlife Trust's lovely Morling Down Nature Reserve near Lewes. So if you've never been there, it's not too far to walk from Lewes Town Centre. It always amazes me that you could be sitting in the middle of busy Lewes Town Centre, and 25 minutes later you could be sat there amongst the butterflies and the wildflowers. A great place to go. You've been there, James. You've been to Morling Down. You've been there before, haven't you?
I have, yeah, not for a while now, actually.
Yeah.
I would, to be honest, Michael. It's probably 2019, I think, pre-COVID.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I've been. I haven't been anywhere for ages, so it's like starting again, isn't it? After this pandemic, emerging from our hovels. If you do go to Morling Down this time of year, if you go there this weekend, the sun's shining, you may see these beauties, the Adonis blue. Our nature reserve at Morling Down is one of the best places in the southeast to see the Adonis blue. And as I always say, James, I always say to people, until you've seen an Adonis blue, a male Adonis blue in the summer, in the sunshine in Sussex, you haven't seen blue before, because it's an incredible colour. It's just the most electric, vivid blue. Incredible. Lovely photo by Tom there. And also Michelle was on the first day of June. She was out at Woods Mill because we do have some cygnets there. The swans have made a nest somewhere sensible this year. They put the nest not on the path. They put a nest in the pond this year. But if you do go to Woods Mill, there's a warning now. Now the swans are now leading the cygnets around the reserve, and they get quite protective over their chicks. So don't get too close. I mean, they won't break your arm, but they'll certainly raise their wings up and start hissing at you. It's not very. It can be quite scary. So please don't get too close. And even worse, they poo everywhere at the swans. We don't have any dogs at Woods Mill. Usually, you can walk around, just look up in the trees for purple emperors and turtle doves. And not worry about where you're stepping. But there's a lot of swan poo around, and swan poo is horrible. It's really black. And one of the problems is people walking through the carpet in the Woods Mill offices there. So just be careful where you're stepping when you go to Woods Mill. And Joe on the first day of June was telling us about some of the moths he had in his moth trap for 30 days wild, including this lovely poplar hawk moth and a brimstone. And what looks like in that picture there, he's got a pebble hook tip, I think, in that picture. So a good start to 30 days wild for Joe. So day two, we're on day 2 of 30 days wild, 2nd of June. And I decided to run a moth trap, inspired by Joe, I guess. And it was rubbish, basically, a load of rubbish. It's been a terrible year for moths. It's been so cold in the evenings. Things are really running late, and they've picked up now. But I ran my moth trap. I thought it'd be a great night. And all I ended up with was no moths whatsoever. I had no moths. Just loads of these again. I didn't even photograph them. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't very happy. There was no moths in the trap. I got out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to look at it. So I didn't take any photos this year. But here's a little vintage clip from my diary last year of some maybugs, cockchafers. Amazing. I always forget they can fly. I always stare at them. It always amaze me when they, like a little Victorian robot or something. Amazing things. Now, Isla did a moth trap as well on the 1st of June, opening on the 2nd of June. And her best catch was a buff tip and a large emerald moth. And the emerald was camera shy and flew off. So now, of course, buff tips, incredible things. I'm sure you'll know the buff tip there. This is a picture I took a while back, and a little game of spot the moth. Now, I reckon the buff tip moth is the most incredible camouflage of any animal in the UK. But looking very much like a little bit of silver birch there, but the colours just match it perfectly. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And also the large emerald moth there, Isla, not the one you saw. This is the one I saw at Berwick train station many years ago. But this is the one that flew off from Isla's trap. And Maya was out on June the 2nd, saving some bumblebees and giving it some sugar water. Emma was out on the downs, looking to find a small blue, and but didn't think she'd get this close. Here's one on her shoelace. That says you can see how tiny it is. Whenever I see small blues, I'm always amazed. They really are. I don't know why I'm so surprised. There's a clue in the name, but they really are small when you see them. Always amazes me. And Karen spent a morning out at Old Lodge, first day in the car park, and she was kept a bit company by this gorgeous red star, which has got a little hoverfly in its mouth there. But so again, when did you last go to Old Lodge, James? When did you last go there?
I can't remember. To be
in
honest,
the days before the pandemic, I guess.
I think it was last year, actually. I think it was when the restrictions lifted. It might have been like May or June or sometime like that, perhaps.
We used to do a few guided walks there, and obviously we'll be starting our guided walks again at some point this year, shortly. But it's a great place to go up in Ashdown Forest, folks. Who haven't been there before. What can you tell people about it, James? How can you sell it to somebody? How could you?
Well, I mean, it's quite an unusual reserve, isn't it? Because it has the sort of topography of more kind of typical upland heath in the northern part of the UK. It's very much dominated by sort of you can see the beautiful heather in flower here, lots and lots of gorse as well. So there's kind of always something in flower. Of course, with gorse, it tends to sort of flower all year round, doesn't it? Depending on the kind of the environment and the habitat. I suppose the reserve itself is dominated really by sort of Scots pine and sort of birch and similar trees. Bird-wise, it's home to some really fantastic species like the redstart that Karen photographed. And of course, the great thing about it is it's one of the very few places we actually have breeding redstart in this part of the country, because they are a bird that prolifically likes the western part of the UK. They don't really like us that much. They don't really want to stay here as a whole. So it's lovely to have those up at Old Lodge. It's obviously a great spot to see, crossbill. Lots and lots of siskins up there as well. Good place to see lesser redpoll. Of course, they're very keen on sort of birch and alder and trees such as that. And it's a great place for dragonflies and damselflies as well. It's really, really good. The kind of acid heath means that it attracts some real sort of specialist species. So you get black darter up there later in the year, which is typically a species that you would find kind of more with more of a northerly distribution. It's very good for golden ring dragonfly. They tend to prefer kind of, slow flowing waters, sort of rivers and streams and things like that. And they're really spectacular as well. They're really big. The kind of females can be pretty much the size of emperor dragonflies. It's very good for small red damselfly as well. Lots and lots of four-spotted chasers. And of course the woodlarks, woodlark and tree pipits, a great reserve for those too. Fantastic for invertebrates, really good for heath tiger beetle. It's a great reserve. It's really nice. Dartford warbler, good for Dartford.
And in the evening, James, don't forget, in the evening.
Well, the evening, of course, it's great for nightjar, isn't it? It's
amazing.
It's a brilliant reserve for nightjar. So I mean, you've got your whole day sorted, folks. You can go there first thing in the morning, like Karen did. Beat the crowds there, because let's be honest, the Ashdown Forest is going to be absolutely mobbed in summer. So if you get there early, you can catch all the early birds, and then you can stay there all through the day and wait for the nightjars in the evening. So
there you go.
Yeah, watch out for ticks, though, folks. Watch out for ticks. Yeah. Old Lodge, I have a big problem with ticks from Old Lodge. They love me. So perhaps just go out with me, and I'll attract all the ticks, and then you won't have a problem. So there we go.
Seems like a good idea.
Consumer advice.
All right, yeah, but it's a great place. Yes, so I mean, certainly, I haven't heard nightjar for a few years. I need to go out. I need to get out more. Full stop. But I need to go out and see some nightjar. I know that.
2019 for me. Yeah. Sure.
So lovely photos from Jan here on June the 2nd. So pleased to get the 3 baby sparrows together in one picture. So a lot of young birds around at the moment. Some birds haven't left the nest, but a lot of young birds out there being fed. Well, these birds are less than S. This is from Joe. He saw a nosy flock earlier this morning at a distance. Are they juvenile starlings? Yes, are they juvenile starlings? Yes, they are juvenile starlings. And yeah, lots of starlings around, getting quite noisy in the back garden here. So 30 Days Wild, day 3, June the 3rd. And Daryl, now again, we had Daryl on the show, didn't we? A few, he shows his night camera footage. He was on the nature table a while back. He said he was out for a bimble this morning. He spotted this stunning adder enjoying the sunshine, and he didn't have his camera, which is a novice error, as he says. Always have your camera on you, Daryl. So he had to make a quick and rather warm run home, only just making it back in time to get this photo. I didn't, it's funny. It's the first time I've ever seen the word bimble written down. I was quite, now people say it, but I wasn't sure it was actually a word, but it actually is. That bimble means to walk or travel at a leisurely pace. So there you go. Actually, I did a bit more research because I thought maybe it's an old sort of Saxon word or something, but apparently, a bit of trivia for you, the word bimble apparently comes from, used by British soldiers during the Falkland Islands crisis. So quite a recent word, but it's still a word. It's the first time I've seen it written down, is all. And also, Daryl on the 3rd of June happened across this lovely roebuck. Went out for a stroll last night, so a nice male roe deer there. Stroll, of course, also means to walk in a leisurely way. Also, same as a bimble in many ways. Now, Barry was bimbling around at Rye Harbour. Got some footage of these black-headed gulls, Barry, on your camera. Should I play this?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was not bimbling. I was cycling.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Just in front of the hive at Tony Hall, there was this nest very, very close, and it hatched 2 of these little chicks. And I looked this afternoon, and they're still both there, about twice the size. They're already beginning to lose their camouflage colour. But if any danger comes, the adults will call out, and the chicks will go and hide and just freeze. And if they stop moving, they become invisible.
How many pairs of black-headed gulls breed at Rye Harbour?
Well, in a normal year, it would be about 600 or 700 pairs.
Wow.
But I think it's been up to over 1,000, but this year it's less than 100. But they haven't gone very far. Many of them are nesting down at pet level. And it's just very, very quiet. We've got fewer turns this year. And I suspect that the colony has a memory of the fairly disastrous breeding season last year. But they will trickle back, and yeah, it'll get up to several hundred again in a few years' time.
Okay. So on day 4 now, day 4 of 30 Days Wild, June the 4th. I went for a bimble on the South Downs on June the 4th. I went out on the South Downs. Now, you may recall June the 4th, I don't know why I planned this. It was a big day out. Me and my friend Andy went out. The weather was absolutely terrible. It was this last Friday. The weather was, it just rained. It hasn't rained for ages, of course. I wasn't complaining because I got some water on the lawn there, but on the wildflower lawn, but it was pretty wet. But I still went out because you don't go out, you don't see anything. We saw some red kites up on the downs. The highlight for me was a hare. I saw a hare because I haven't seen hares for ages. So up on top of the downs there, had some lovely views of the hare. Actually, this was probably more accurately, it looked a bit more like this. A wet hare in the rain there. So that's good to see. Not my photo, of course. It was just the one I saw was running across the horizon. But I was pretty drenched, but still a smile on my face. Love seeing hares. Julie said, things a bit wet for this little blue tit today. She put a picture on the nature table. So I love this picture. Look at that. It was definitely a wet day on the 4th of June. Simon put a picture of some wood pigeons who are enjoying the rain. Actually, they are enjoying the rain. A bit of a bath there, and a little bit of a drink. And here's some other wet birds. Jan took some photographs of great crested grebe down at Chichester gravel pits. I love young great crested grebe with a stripy head. What was Charlotte saying? I was thinking Charlotte was saying the other day about they feed feathers to their young. Remember that? Yeah. And I couldn't remember why they did it. Do you remember?
It helps them regurgitate their pellets, so the bones of the fish. don't go right
okay.
through. They don't go right through the bird. They have to come back out the mouth.
So they sort of wrap around they wrap around the bones so they don't get choked on the way back out.
And the young ones are referred to by some people as humbugs.
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, that's fair enough. So that was June the 4th, very wet day. But it soon changed. On June the 5th, Maya was out going for a walk at Ifield Brook as part of her 30 Days Wild, and such a contrast to yesterday, she said. Plenty of birds there, plenty of woodpeckers, skylark, greenfinch, chaffinch, goldfinch, swifts, and a song thrush heard and seen. Now, Greta saw one of these beauties. Now, I love these guys. These are rose chafers. She saw this in Seaford. Now, they're quite localised in Sussex. There's loads in Lewis, and there's certainly Seaford and also Arundel. They're amazing things. I always think they look very expensive, rose chafers. Very expensive looking thing. I mean, you don't have them over your way, do you, Barry, or Rye, or anywhere like that?
Only very rarely.
Right.
Yeah.
They're quite localised in areas around the county, but certainly in Lewis, if you walk around Lewis, you can't miss them over there. But they're out and about now. Amazing looking things, really are. And picture here of a grass snake at a Woods Mill. There's a nice video online as well. This is a great photograph by Gordon there. Look at that. So a great place for grass snakes at Woods Mill. As you walk around the pond there, look across on the lily pads there. Maybe lucky and get a glimpse of one of these lovely things. Look at that tongue. Amazing. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's really superb. Now,
Isla, on day 5, on June the 5th, for 30 Days Wild, took a trip to Rye Harbour, and she said, plus, of course, a chance to see Barry and the Swallowtails, which it sounds to me like some sort of rock and roll band from the 50s, Barry and the Swallowtails. It's a little picture. There they are. There's Barry and the Swallowtails. But I kind of missed all this. I missed all the action. So I thought, Barry, do you want to give us, if we go back, do you want to give us a recap of the whole story? So how did it all start?
I think it was August the 3rd last year. My colleague Chris saw a swallowtail butterfly in my garden on my buddleia. By the time I got to my garden, it had gone. And I've never seen swallowtail in Britain, so I was a bit disappointed. I spoke to my neighbours, who are avid gardeners, just to keep an eye out for it. And my neighbour got a photograph of the female laying these eggs on her fennel. And her husband was just about to weed the fennel plants out of their border. So I took them into custody and embarked on a month of caring for 9 eggs that turned into huge caterpillars. They munched their way through a lot of fennel. And then they became these spectacular animals. This is the last instar, the last phase of the caterpillars. And then they went into being a pupa. Oh, here it is. There it strung itself up towards the top end of the caterpillar. It's got some silk, and then it wraps itself up and then amazingly turns into a pupa. You can see the wing there. Then they rest over the winter and into the spring. And
here we go. So here we go. Drum roll, please. That's the drummer there from Barry and the Swallowtails.
And then one day I looked in on them, and the first one had emerged. And I just couldn't believe how they were works of art. You've got handlebars there at the front.
These are great photographs, Barry. And this is an amazing video I'll play now. It's about a minute long, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a minute long, but it represents 6 minutes of the emergence, or the expansion of the wings. I was very upset because I should have lowered the camera a bit so you could see the actual swallowtails, but they go off the bottom. So the insect is pumping fluid out of its body into the wings. So the wings are still quite wet here and flexible. And having been cooped up inside that pupal case for many, many months, I should think it feels quite good to have a good stretch and get going, the tongue there going in and out, in and out.
That's amazing footage, Barry.
So on the tip of the abdomen, you can see it's quite pointed on this one. Oh, just hiding it there. just as it peeks out. So the pointed tip to the abdomen means it's a male, and of the 9 chrysalis, 7 of them were male. Yeah, which was a bit of a disappointment.
There it is.
Yeah, fabulous insects. Now, I didn't risk taking it out into the blue sky to photograph this. This is inside my bathroom. And just look at all the tiny little scales on the wing there, and just amazing patterns and colours. So I took several hundred photos, and yeah, then had the problem of what to do with them. But so I phoned a friend, and Ralph Hobbs came to my rescue. He has got a lot of experience of raising these, and he knew that the females needed to be mated quite soon after they emerge, but the males take a few days to be ready to mate. So anyway, he took them and he put them in a cage in his garden, and the first female has successfully been mated and laid eggs, and has been released. Once it started laying eggs, Ralph let it go. So
Wow.
yeah, so hopefully it's the beginning of colonization from these French swallowtail butterflies that feed on fennel.
A great end to the story, Barry. Well done. Amazing. Amazing. Now, while Isla was over there, she saw the swallowtails. So you take them on tour, Barry, or something? What was Barry and the swallowtails? Were you?
I had a rendezvous with some social media people, and
Right.
Isla was one of them. And I said I'd be in the car park at 10 o'clock on Saturday. And yeah, so we showed it to about 25 people in the car park. Yeah.
Brilliant. Some groupies there for Barry and the swallowtails. So, and also, while Isla was there, she took a picture of these caterpillars, grass egger caterpillars. Now, this is quite a key species over at Rye Harbour, Barry, is that right?
Yeah, this is pale grass egger, which is only known
Okay.
from Dungeness and Rye Harbour. It's a shingle specialist, and the cuckoos love them. But yeah, there's a reasonable population here, and the adults emerge in August, and they're not very strong flyers. They just sort of flop about just above the surface of the shingle. So they seem to be happy.
I was going to ask people, just because I was going to put a picture of a cuckoo. I was going to ask a little poll for people. I was going to ask you folks, have you seen or heard a cuckoo this year? Okay, and before you answer, before I put the poll up, me and Barry and James, all right, I want us to guess how many people, what percentage of people have heard or seen a cuckoo so far this year. What am I doing? Stop that. I've got to launch the poll now. One second. Look. So that goes there. Right, I can launch that. Hopefully you can see that. Right, oh, write it down for Barry, James, write it down. Don't peek, write it down. I reckon. Okay. All right. We'll see how we get on. A little bit of music here while you're doing it. Background music. All right. Okay. You got your answers, Barry? James?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Oh, it disappeared. Okay.
So, Barry, you think 33% of the people have seen or heard a cuckoo? Yeah. James, what have you got?
I've gone big. Yeah, it's been anecdotally, I've seen quite a few this year. So
I can't see that. James ain't working. You're just vanishing behind this bit of white paper.
I'm trying to move it.
I don't know how it's going to work. There's some green screen thing. Wait.
There we go.
63. And I'm going for 48. All right, 48. Okay.
Go big or go home.
Let's have a look. I'm gonna share results. Look, so 58% of the. That's not bad. Well done, folks. But I guess we are chatting to an audience of people here who go out bird watching, probably. So James, I think you were closest. So you're right to go higher. Well done.
I'm a pessimist.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. I mean, obviously, it's a declining species, but I've heard a few this year. I mean, I heard one on my walk yesterday morning. Heard one at Woods Mill the other day. So maybe it's a good year. But it's good to know people are getting out and hearing cuckoos. So that's good to know. So But there's plenty of time left, folks. And like James mentioned earlier on, the cuckoos at Old Lodge are always guaranteed, aren't they? When they go to Old Lodge, it's always
Yeah.
Yeah, but now it's June. They changed their tune.
That's true. It's a good point, Barry. Good point, well made. Yeah, I think of that.
Getting late now. Yeah, it's getting late.
Yeah.
Some of them.
God, it is late. It's midsummer soon. It just feels like, I don't know. It's a funny old time. Right.
Good sightings at Rye though. Really good. So I'm sure Barry will concur. There's lots and lots of good sightings of them at Rye Harbour this year. It's sitting on the telegraph wires.
Yeah, but it's not as good as it used to be.
No, well,
Yeah.
He always says that, James. He always says that.
We used to reckon there were 8 males you could hear calling here, whereas this year I think it's 3.
But
Perhaps it's just because I've gone deaf.
Okay, all right. Well, it's well, that's not right. What's happened now? Look, here we are. Here we are. So where are we? We're on the 6th of June, the 6th day of 30 Days Wild, and Julia was out near Chichester and saw her first ever bee orchids. You don't forget your first ever bee orchids. Look at that, beautiful, beautiful flowers. And James and Dawn were out in the South Downs, took some lovely photographs to put them on the nature table of the beautiful bee orchids as well. Look at that, gorgeous. Gary was in his garden in Crawley, but saw just as stunning. It's a young great spotted woodpecker. I just saw a pair actually in the garden. I was trying to photograph them before the webinar started. There was the adult on the feeder was feeding some nuts to a young bird on the lawn down there, but I haven't got a very good camera. But woodpeckers these days, of course, are quite common in people's gardens. Put this little graph here to show you how the numbers have increased since the 60s, since Barry and the Swallowtails were playing their gigs around the pubs of Sussex. The woodpecker numbers have really gone up, which unfortunately can't be said about this bird here, which is photographed near Woods Mill by Neil. He says his perseverance finally paid off to be able to see this lovely bird, and such an incredible bird, the turtle dove. A lovely sound, the lovely purring sound, which you can hear around Woods Mill and some of our other reserves across the county. But again, there's a similar sort of graph, tells a different story. I mean, it really is quite worrying. Numbers have declined by something like 95% since the 60s or something. Every time I read the stats, I have to reread them because it just seems unbelievable. But I know there's been some flying around Woods Mill the last few days, so it's always a good place to go to hear and see turtle doves. And Jill was over at Rye Harbour on June the 6th. She unfortunately arrived too late to check out the new visitor centre. It worried me a bit. I thought maybe it closed, but hopefully there's still a chance for me to be invited and for Jill to have a look inside as well. But it looks fab, she said. But she took a picture of this little tern over there. So I was going to ask you, Barry, to explain what's going on here in this picture.
Okay, so some years ago, about 10 years ago, the little terns all left Rye Harbour and went and tried nesting on the military ground near Dungeness. But they nested next to a badger set, so they all failed over there. So in a ploy to get them back to Rye Harbour and to nest inside our electric fence, I imported 25 American least terns and put them out in realistic pose and played little tern twitterings, and we successfully got them back to nest in the relative safety of the electric fence. But I did come across several people that were videoing and photographing them and wondering why they were so still.
Let's just go back and make sure Jill didn't. No, that's a little tern. That's okay. She's got a
look how sharp that beak is, and just how fine the bird is.
Compared to that, hasn't been filed down properly. Are the fake least terns still there, or are they the models still there?
No, they were only put out in some years. They're still stored in a cardboard box in our workshop.
Okay, all right. So if you do see any terns, any little tiny terns with sharp beaks, sharp yellow beaks, they're going to be the real thing. If you go to Rye Harbour. Isla's out again. Isla's out looking at on the 6th now, looking at damselflies at Park Corner Heath near Lewes and East Hoveley. So this is a white-legged damselfly, James. And what's the ID features here? Because it's something to do with the legs, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the stripes on the legs are really distinctive on white-legged damselfly. There's also some I don't know why I'm pointing because nobody can see what I'm pointing at, but there's also some really distinctive markings just on the side of the thorax. You can see it kind of looks like a hockey stick. I don't know if anybody can tell that from the image, but it's sort of the way that those black lines join up on the side, which is quite distinctive. But really, the leg markings are very diagnostic. They're pretty chunky actually for one of the blue damselflies. Most of them are a little bit smaller and really, very much the size of matchsticks, to be honest. This one's not much bigger, but it's just a little bit bigger. The markings all the way down the abdomen are quite distinctive as well. But the legs really are the kind of key on these ones.
Yeah, nice looking thing.
Really, really nice species, yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed like one minute there was no dragonflies and damselflies around, and suddenly they all came out, it seemed. It went from 0 to sort of 60.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I went to Woods Mill one day, and suddenly everything was buzzing around. This is one you mentioned earlier on, James. The lovely. This is probably my favourite. This is the golden ring dragonfly, and you find this more on the heathlands. You were saying.
Yeah, this one is more of a sort of. I mean, it's not entirely a sort of an acid-loving species, but it's certainly a good habitat for finding them. But I've had a few people say to me actually that they've turned up in their gardens, by small garden ponds. So obviously there is. There's a bit of diversity in terms of where they can be, but often you'll find them well away from water. So like, if you do happen to go to Old Lodge, you can often see them sort of hunting up over the heather as well. Obviously, they're hugely distinctive. I mean, you really can't mistake them for any other dragonflies. They don't have the same patterning as any of the other hawkers. They're really very aptly named. I mean, there are so many species that have ridiculous names, aren't they, in relation to describing them? But this one really does sum it up very nicely. As I say, the females I think can be over 8 centimeters, can't they, in length? So they can pretty much hit the same size as the biggest of the emperor dragonflies. So they've been quite bulky as well. And often you'll see them sort of perched up in kind of low trees as well, but they'll sort of roam around the same sort of patch of water, and they're pretty territorial, to other dragonflies, to smaller hawkers and darters as well. So keep an eye out for them and get yourselves up Old Lodge and take a look for them.
So Andrew was out looking for something else. He's got a picture of this one here, which is quite a rarity. This is the club-tailed dragonfly. I know you can find these on the river, on the River Rother over there near Fittleworth.
Yeah, I think generally the distribution of common clubtail. It's not really that common, is it, around here? But it's generally more to the west, isn't it? More sort of like Hampshire side. So that's amazing to see that over here. It's really, really good. Beautiful.
Yeah, nice, great photo as well by Andrew. And now there's a few of these. There's a nice photo by Istvan here. I saw some of these just yesterday. I was on my walk down by the Ada there. But these is the banded demoiselle.
Yeah.
And the other one we have, which we see a lot. There's loads of these at Woods Mill at the moment. Was the beautiful demoiselle.
Yeah. I mean, they really live up to the name, don't they? They're absolutely stunning. So I mean, the males can be, when they're fully mature, they can be this beautiful sort of like electric blue-green. The colour sort of varies between the two, but the wings as well. They're the only damselflies that have coloured wings. So the wing colour can be the same as the body colour, which is absolutely phenomenal. You can see this one here actually with the green and bronze body as a female, and although it's a bit hard to make out because the wings are a bit jittery, but can you see there's a sort of white dot just on the top of each of the wings? And that's the Terro Stigma. So the females in the demoiselles have the Terro Stigma, but the males don't. And actually the females between the beautiful demoiselles and the banded demoiselles, they're quite hard to split. And actually it's the position of the Terro Stigma and how far it is along the wing that's actually quite diagnostic between the two species. But with the males, as Michael showed on the previous photo, they have that really obvious band on the wings. So the males actually are really, there you go. So the males are much, much more unmistakable, whereas the beautiful demoiselles have this kind of, have a uniform coloration of wing. But they flutter around in a very butterfly-esque way, don't they, Michael? They're really flittish. Yeah, they're flittish and fluttery. So actually, when you see them from a distance, they don't immediately strike you as being damselflies. You sort of do think that you've seen a little flittish butterfly, and it's only when you get closer to them that you kind of appreciate there's something quite different. But I
can ask quite a lot of Woods Mill what these butterflies are flying down the water and stuff. But just point out, James has got. If you look on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, James has put a whole series. I think four episodes of Dragonfly ID guide, a bit like my butterfly ID guide. But there's a link to it at the end of this talk. So
Yeah,
And this is one I saw around.
Yeah.
So this is one I saw around the weekend. It's a foot by Tony here, a broad-bodied chaser.
Yeah.
These chunky things. So the females are yellow and the males are blue.
Yeah, the males sort of turn bluer, and it's called pruinescence, and they sort of start off a little bit patchier when they're immature. They don't have this because they're a lovely sort of sky. I suppose it's like a sky blue. It's a sort of azure sky blue. It's not super deep. It's quite powdery in coloration. But
James, is it the colour of the background to the slide?
oh, sorry, Barry. I see what you mean. I was looking at the green. Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, it's very, very similar to that colour, isn't it? That's a good spot. Very similar. So there you go, folks.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Michael's got a photo of a male, but
I haven't, no. But if you look at the bit of the blue on the side of the screen there, that's the colour of a.
just apply it. Yeah. So, I mean, they're a very stocky dragonfly, and they're really wide, but they're quite stubby, so they're not particularly long. They're really, one of the very earliest emerging dragonfly species. And these are definitely a species that you can attract to your garden pond, folks. So for anybody who's, digging even the smallest of ponds, just any kind of water body really in your garden, you'll almost certainly attract broad-bodied chasers. They're very, very pretty species. And the funny thing is actually the females, when they're this kind of ochre, golden yellow colour, when they're buzzing around, you can kind of mistake them for hornets, actually. Have you ever thought that? There's something very
big things, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, just because of how chunky they are. But they're really lovely. Yeah, really lovely. And actually, if you make a pond and you stick a stick in it, then generally you can get the males to perch, so you can get some really nice photos in your pond as well.
Just put a few photos here, James. Another picture from Tony here of a large. This one does what it says. It's a large red damselfly.
It is, yeah.
But also a picture it's a great picture you took, James, of some variable damselflies as well.
Thank you.
And
yeah.
I guess I just going to point. I mean, all these blue damselflies are quite tricky to tell apart. And we won't go into it now, but it was just to remind me to say that there's a link at the end to James's damselfly and dragonfly guide, which will, if you watch that, you'll be an expert after watching those 4 episodes. So.
Well, the one thing I would say, Michael, is bear in mind, because of the length of time, I sort of only covered half of the dragonflies and damselflies, and I dealt with the commoner, easier to find half. So actually, I can't actually remember whether I put much in about variable damselfly. I'm not sure I did.
Yeah, it was way back in those pandemic days, wasn't it? So it's
it was, but the blues are
distant.
The blues are tricky, folks. And the thing is, as well, like, just very quickly, these are so tiny, and to be honest with you, my eyes are no longer good enough to actually look at the markings on them just by looking at them in when I'm actually there in person. So I really have to take photos so I can look at the markings a little bit closer. I can sort of just about tell they were variable, but it was quite difficult, to be honest with you. It was quite difficult. They were tiny, absolutely tiny. So they're only like 3 centimeters long, folks. They're really, really small, really thin as well.
Lovely. So thank you, James. So they're on day 7 of 30 Days Wild. I'm looking for some orchids. And I travelled all the way into my back garden. There's my back garden there. I can sit looking nice out the window. Looking lovely this year. A lot of ragged robin this year, and lots of yellow rattle as well. But amongst it all, I was really pleased that there was some common spotted orchid. Now, I'd seen some of the leaves coming up. I saw about 3 or 4 leaves, but there's actually 12 orchids in the garden. So I'm quite pleased. So I'll be counting those year on year and see if they increase. But lovely to see. Karen was out at Old Lodge again on the 7th of June, and lovely little stone chat. I do love stone chats. There's a nice little fellow there. And James, I think you have to confess, James, you went on a Twitch. Is this right? Is this true? What I hear?
I did. Genuinely, it's one of the very few I've been on. It really is. And the only reason I went was because it's 15 minutes down the road. So
save your excuses. Save your excuses, James. You went on a Twitch. There's no 2 ways about it. There's a picture here by Mike Mullis of a collared prating coal. Now, I've got to admit.
So I don't think I did. I don't think I did. It was just.
I've got to admit, I've always wanted to see a collared prating coal. I've no idea what they, I have no idea how they move or anything. I've never ever seen one, and even I was thinking about driving over because it was over at Rye, wasn't it, Barry?
The 2 of them were seen briefly on the Saturday lunchtime before they turned up at Dungeness. But I've never seen them anywhere and I wouldn't dare cross the county boundary to go to see a bird.
No way. There's no way we're across that county boundary.
I didn't even realise there's no boundary marker, so you don't know. You just don't know.
What did you go to Kent, James, for this?
Well, I didn't know I'd gone into Kent, Michael. I mean, where's
These excuses, James, honestly, it's terrible. I didn't know you went to Kent. When you're in Kent.
Well, not always. I'm very close. You can drive in. It's it's an easy mistake to make. It's an easy mistake.
It's a mistake to make. Here's a photo by Jo. A nice find in the garden, she said, on June the 7th, and also on June the 7th. Cliff said, whilst I was gardening today, this beautiful hawk moth adopted me. Who knows what it was? Of course, quite a few answers there. All right, this is the lime hawk moth, one of our biggest moth species. Gorgeous. Always remind me sort of army surplus sort of colours on the lime hawk moth. So 8th day of 30 Days Wild. Emma was out looking for some. Look at these stunningly beautiful 5-spot Burnett moths. When I saw this photo by Emma, I suddenly realised I've never seen a 5-spot Burnett moth. I've never seen one. I've seen 6-spot Burnetts, of course. I see lots of those. There's quite a few Burnett moths in the page of my book there, and I've seen narrow-bordered 5-spot Burnett, which you find at Woods Mill, and I've seen 6-spot Burnett. I must have been counting the spots, to be honest, but yeah. So, as I say, quite a few of these Burnett moths, pretty much all on the same themes, red and black. They're a bit confusing because there's a 6-spot Burnett, which you see all across the downs in the summer. I have it in my front garden. The narrow-bordered 5-spot, you find that over at Woods Mill in the summer. There's also the New Forest Burnett, which where do you find that, James?
The New Forest Burnett, you say?
Yeah.
Well, it's almost certainly not going to be the New Forest, is it?
No, Western Scotland is where you find the New Forest Burnett.
Like that.
And of course, there's also the transparent Burnett. It's a nice photograph of one there on the side, but quite confusing things. Anyway, less confusing, of course, is a photo by Moy here of a lovely bullfinch. Look at that. Oh, look at that. That's an amazing bird, isn't it? That gets some seed in her back garden on June the 8th. And Lorraine Bowen sent a picture that the blue tits are fledged, and she was cleaning out the blue tit box, and she said, look at this beautiful nest in its penthouse suite, perfectly puffed up with moss, grass, feathers, and pieces of coloured sponge. Look at that, work it up. It looks very cosy in there. It looks very cosy. Last time I saw Lorraine Bowen, she was supporting Billy Bragg at the Hackney Empire. So I'm not sure she's watching tonight, but just to let her know that I was in the crowd at many, many moons ago. But now she's taking photographs of blue tit nests on the nature table. Speaking of lovely homes, here's 95% occupancy at Cliff's B&B there. So you can see where those bamboo sticks are being filled up by bees. And of course, Barry last year put a lovely blog out of how to make a bee hotel. And I'll put a link to it at the end, Barry, so people can make their own. As Barry said, it took them 20 minutes and cost nothing. So obviously it's very important how much Barry spends on his bee hotels. But
I've made a discovery this year that we had some offcuts of plastic wood, and they love it. They took to it much quicker than using old-fashioned timber.
Right.
Yeah, so try drilling into anything.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so I put various guides on a link at the end of the talk. And here's on day 8 of 30 Days Wild, Isla was out. So it was Brownie's Day, and they're looking at plastic pollution in the sea. So she's recreated this. She built her own crab. I think it's a crab. It's either a crab. It's not a turtle or a jellyfish. It's a crab. It's a crab out of plastic containers, which were recycled at the end. And Sarah saw this. What's his name of this little beauty? She saw it at Rye Harbour. She says she didn't know who he or her was. It's a moth, and Daryl pointed out it's the Mother Shipton moth. Now, Mother Shipton, some people may know, was a sort of 15th century or 16th century witch from North Yorkshire or somewhere. If you look closely at the wings, well, if you go to another picture, here's a photograph of another Mother Shipton taken on June the 7th by B and over at Rowland Wood near Lewes. A bit closer on the detail there, and you can just make out. You can just look. I mean, you can see. You've got to sort of use your imagination, folks. But on the left-hand side, you can see looking right is the face of Mother Shipton, the witch. I put a hat on. You can just see a bit clearer, but you can see the nose. He's got the nose and the chin, but I think it's quite a good resemblance. So that's the Mother Shipton moth there. And also on 8th of June, I've never seen a more excited looking hedgehog than that. I'd say, look at that. This hedgehog appeared early enough last evening to get a picture, she said. It was happy that the birds had left some food. It certainly looks pretty happy. Look at that. A very excitable hedgehog. And on day 8, I went looking for Duke of Burgundy butterflies on the down. I didn't see them, but I did find a moth. I did find my first 5-spot Burnett's. I counted all the spots, and so I was quite pleased. Way over west, almost near the border with Hampshire. Almost went too far. But unlike James, I knew my place, and I stayed in Sussex.
I bet you breached it. I bet you.
No, I would never do that.
No,
I'll never do that.
leave it.
And so day 9 of 30 Days Wild, James and I, we kind of went on a twitch at Woods Mill. We went in search of a very rare bird. We had an email to say that singing at the back of Woods Mill, possibly singing, weren't too sure, was a Blythe's reed warbler. So James and I were just in the office, and we raced around the corner. We didn't see a Blythe's reed warbler. We saw Mike Russell. You remember Mike Russell, who did our bird song webinar? Well, he's there. He lives around Woods Mill. He hangs around the trees there and stuff. So he was there. And there was we were hoping to hear a Blythe's reed warbler. Never heard one before. It sounds like this. Like a very sort of slow, whistly reed warbler, but we didn't hear anything. So it was a kind of a twitch, James, wasn't it? It was a kind of a twitch we went on.
It was
About a 5-minute twitch down there. Was not moving. Here we are. And then also after we went to the looking for a Blythe's reed warbler, James and I went in search of a frog, and we saw lots of frogs. Went to over in Lewis. Went to a meeting in Lewis with some community groups over there. And haven't seen marsh frog for a while. I put the marsh frog sound on because it's incredible. And again, this time of year, we get people asking us what the strange birds are, singing these guttural sounds from the reed beds, and it's not a bird, it's an amphibian. But introduced, I think, was it 1935, Barry? Does that sound right?
Yeah, in Kent.
Oh yeah. Well, they should have stayed in Kent, but they didn't. They hopped over our way, and now they're spreading all across Rye, of course, all through Lewis, over here to Bramber Brooks as well. So you can hear them all over the.
The only frog we have on the reserve. I haven't seen a common frog here for 20 years.
Really? Wow.
It's the favourite food of marsh harriers and the globally threatened medicinal leech. So there's something good for it. Okay.
That's fair enough. And also, when we were at the Lewis Brooks the other day, James, then we saw the heron flying around. Well, John took a picture of the heron. We caught an eel on the railway land there. And then it took off and was mobbed by 3 herring gulls, and the eel dropped into a dense patch of nettles. So it may have survived and got back into the water. Look at that.
That is
I'm not sure what the heron was planning. I mean, they could swallow that, I guess. I wouldn't mind watching that, but I kept it busy for a bit.
European eel, that one, isn't it? Really big.
Yeah. And Barry's been doing some filming down in the reed bed. There's a nice little short film here, Barry.
Yeah. Now, I've been filming in this little reed bed for quite a while using trail cameras, mostly for water rails, and but some other birds came along. So here's a lovely male reed bunting. It's a little bit jerky on my screen, but it goes over in the corner and it has a little bit of a wash. Bit of cuckoo in the background, I think, just about here. So it's still washing, And then the next bird that came along was a little stripy sedge warbler, hunting very low in the reeds, looking for insects. And then here's a bit much higher up is a very plain looking reed warbler. And then at night, same view from the same trail camera, there's a little water vole. And that one does look quite small. I wonder whether it was a young one. And also at night, in complete darkness, is this water rail. But just watch the route that it takes. It goes exactly the same way as the vole, but in daylight, the colours on the adult water rails. So previous to this video, I got some clips of water rail building nests. They were coming across the view of the camera, taking bits of reed back to a nest. So I'm hoping that down there today, there's going to be some little cute water rail chicks.
The water rails, probably my favourite British bird, the water rail. Absolutely love them.
Yeah.
Absolutely love them. Oh, and so here we are today, the 10th of June. So we're 10 days into 30 Days Wild. So if you haven't taken part in 30 Days Wild and want to join in, it's still 20 days left, and there's no real rules there. You can start when you want. You can join. I won't say anything. Today I thought I'd go and feed my yellowhammers. So I tell you, I mentioned them. I've been feeding these yellowhammers since they first turned up. Just some seed. I've been putting them out. We had almost 20 yellowhammers, but I've told you this all before, haven't I? But anyway, I just put some seed out, and just before the webinar started tonight, I leant around the sofa here, had a look, and there was they're there all the time. I'm not too happy about feeding the local squirrels, but certainly most of the seed goes to these gorgeous yellowhammers. They're still coming in, Barry. It's amazing. They're still coming in every day. But I thought they'd be long gone. But I guess some of these birds may not have paired up and just wandering around. But
that's a very nice, bright male, isn't it?
Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 there today. So it really has been the highlight of my year. These yellowhammers tonight. I still can't believe it. So and of course, what we've all been doing is as part of your 30 Days Wild activities, you've been watching this incredible webinar tonight. So you can put that down on your calendar as today's activity for 30 Days Wild. I watched Barry and the Swallowtails on the nature table. So we're going to take a break from the 30 days from the nature table for a bit. We're going to take a few months off. I think I did promise the team, because we've been working so hard. We've been doing this since the dark days of November. Was it October we started? And I think we need a bit of a break. We've got a few holidays coming up, and also we've got to do some work on planning events and doing things outdoors as well. So hopefully we may even see some of you out there. We'll take a break for a few months. Then we're gonna regroup, and we'll do a nature table in the autumn, in September time. My friend pointed out today that even Chris Packham takes the summer off, doesn't he? He does his spring watch and he does his autumn watch. He never does summer watch, does he? So even Chris Packham takes some time off. And like Chris Packham, you may want to enjoy a good book while you're having a few months off. But we'll be back again in September with more nature table. But we haven't stopped doing the webinars. We'll be doing monthly webinars for members. I'll be doing one in a few weeks' time on June the 22nd. I've got a feeling this is going to backfire on me a bit, because the plan was that after this all finished on the 21st of June, I will do a little celebration on the 22nd of June, do a talk about some of the fantastic nature reserves of the Wildlife Trust. And I thought it'd be a nice way, because I was there at the start with the diary. I thought it'd be a nice way of ending this fiasco, this pandemic fiasco. But I've got a feeling they may be putting that date back. So I may still be a bit grouchy when you see me on June the 22nd. But we'll be doing that talk on June the 22nd, and there'll be more members' webinars coming up in July and August as well. Then me and Barry and James and Charlotte and the gang will be back in September. But we're not going to end. And that's right. I know you're very sad. I can hear you all crying out there. I can hear you crying. But I thought we'd end on a high note, Barry and James. And I can't think of anything better than this. I mean, I have waited years for this, Barry. I really have. Now, if you saw my moth talk, you would know I talked with a very heavy heart. This is weighed very heavy on every naturalist in Sussex for centuries. Basically, this is the Sussex Emerald. This moth is a beautiful moth. The lovely green moth. You can just see on the wing fringes there. There's checkered red marks on the wing fringes. Absolutely beautiful thing. It's a moth that bears our name. It was first seen in about 1900 around Beachy Head, and the first ever British record was seen there. And so it got our name, the Sussex Emerald. So a moth that we're all really proud of in Sussex. And here is the list of all English counties where you'll find breeding Sussex Emeralds. It's only found in Kent, and that has been a real thorn in the heart of every moth-loving Sussex man or woman. The moth is only really breeding in Kent. And I said during my moth talk a few months ago, the dream would be that one day we'll find the caterpillars of the Sussex Emerald in Sussex. And I know Barry and his team over there, we're planning on looking in 2019. And I did say to you, Barry, I said, if you ever found the caterpillar of a Sussex Emerald moth, Rye Harbour. I shall be breaking out the champagne. So, so Barry, it's over to you.
Okay, well, my colleague Chris has been trapping moths near our cabins for the last couple of years, and he's been catching adults. But that's catching an adult moth is not proof that they're breeding. But today we had the expert Sussex Emerald moth caterpillar hunter, Sean Clancy, who crossed the county boundary from darkest Kent into sunny Sussex, and he found one. Oh,
Here we are.
Drum roll. He found
Drum roll,
one.
please. And there it is.
So this is the photograph I took of it about lunchtime today. I happened to be bimbling past on my bicycle, and I saw three figures looking into the wild carrot area, and Chris got very animated and waved me over, and there it was at last.
So after like this over a century of waiting, finally the Sussex Emerald is in Sussex. So congratulations, Barry, and to Chris and Sean and the team over there. So well, and this is a huge day. I mean, this is the moth with our name. It's finally come back. So so I got the champagne ready. So here we go. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to try and point it away from the TV, but it's taking a bit longer than I thought. Oh yeah, you've got your glass ready, Barry. Here it goes. Whoop, here it goes. Whoa, there we are. Look. Whoop. So when I said, Barry, I'll have a bottle of champagne for the to celebrate this, I didn't actually say I'll be sending it over to Rye, but I should be enjoying it myself. So so I raised my glass to you, Barry. There you are, and to all the work you've been doing over at Rye to get the habitat right for this species. And it's a proud day for every Sussex man and woman. So I'm genuinely filling up here. I'm quite tearful. This is a big day for me. So so cheers. Anyway.
So perhaps we should save the big public announcement for 6 days' time on Sussex Day.
Yeah, let's do that. So there's all tops. You were the first people to hear it, folks. So you're hearing it first. So we'll keep quiet to Sussex Day. Do a big press release. It's absolutely amazing news. So look at that. So anyway, so there's that. So what happens at the end? Oh yeah. So so thank you all for listening. There's a few links to Dragonfly videos, to blogs, and all sorts of things. Hopefully you'll be taken there at the end of this video. If you don't find it, go and click on the hair on the front page of our website, and it will take you to the Nature Table Live pages. And if you've enjoyed this evening's talk, as I always say, please consider making a donation to support the work of the Wildlife Trust. Or if you're not a member, well, now's a good time to join us, because we now have Sussex Emerald moths in Sussex, so you have no more reasons and excuses to not join us. We've been doing all these talks for these webinars and stuff, 45 webinars now, and we've had such a great response from people, so many new people joining, and it's really been heartening, and it's probably why we've been keeping on doing it for so long, I guess, because it's been very inspirational. So if you're not a member, as I always keep saying, Barry and I do know where you live, and we do know who's been watching. So over the next few months, while we're not doing these nature tables, we can come around door to door, Barry, and we'll have to be asking questions. So I'll go on the back of your bike, Barry. We can cycle around and do that. So thank you all for listening, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time, but we'll all be back in a few months. So have a good summer, and take care, and we'll see you soon. So give us all a wave. I'm going to enjoy my fizz, and I'll see you in a bit. Take care. Bye.